Of September 11, 2001, falling debris from the Twin Towers struck Building 7, igniting fires that raged uncontrollably for hours. Weakened by the intense heat, the steel structure finally succumbed and collapsed late that afternoon. Long before Hollywood fame, a young Denzel Washington stands proudly as an honorary police chief. This snapshot from a boys' club trip to a New York station in the 1960s captures the early charisma of a future icon. Winds of change were blowing through the Iron Curtain in 1988 as the first official Miss Soviet Union pageant took place. These candid moments capture the excitement and novelty of Western-style beauty contests entering the communist sphere. Standing at a staggering 8 feet 11 inches, Robert Wadlow towers over his parents and siblings. In 1935, known as the Alton Giant, his gentle demeanor belied the physical struggles that would claim his life at just 22. Capturing a smile in the 1860s was nearly impossible due to long exposure times, making this ambrotype exceptional here. A mother holds her joyfully blurring baby, preserving a rare, candid moment of Victorian happiness. A clash of centuries unfolds on a Florida beach in 1985 as a man dressed as a Puritan protests modern swimwear. His somber 17th century attire stands in stark, surreal contrast to the sunbathers around him. As the threat of chemical warfare loomed over Britain in 1940, not even animals were exempt from precautions. This surreal image of a horse fitted with a gas mask highlights the terrifying totality of the conflict. Glamour met practicality in 1943 when actress Veronica Lake demonstrated the dangers of long hair for female war workers by catching her famous locks in a drill press. She encouraged women to adopt safer, shorter hairstyles. A striking comparison reveals the transformation of São João Avenue in São Paulo. Once a bustling, elegant boulevard in the 1950s, the modern view reflects the complex evolution and urban challenges of the growing metropolis. Werner von Braun stands proudly before the massive engines of the Saturn V in 1969. It is a complex portrait of a man who pivoted from leading Nazi Germany's rocket program to taking America to the moon. Hollywood royalty takes a stand as Lauren Bacall and Humphrey Bogart lead a delegation to Washington. In 1947, they marched to protest the House Un-American Activities Committee defending the First Amendment against the growing Red Scare. History stares back in this rare daguerreotype from the 1840s featuring President James K. Polk and First Lady Sarah Polk. It serves as one of the earliest surviving photographic records of a United States Commander-in-Chief. This 1844 portrait preserves the dignified gaze of Agrippa Hull, a freeborn black man who fought in the American Revolution. He served for over 6 years, representing a vital but often overlooked chapter of the nation's founding. Born in 1749, Conrad Heyer is believed to be the earliest born person ever photographed. This 1852 daguerreotype bridges the gap between the modern era and the mid-18th century, capturing a veteran who crossed the Delaware with Washington. Sleek lines and heavy chrome define this 1959 Ford police cruiser. It represents a classic era of American law enforcement design, where authority was projected through the sheer weight and style of the automobile. Tensions reach a boiling point in Newark, New Jersey on July 12, 1967. Dr. Robert Curvin attempts to redirect an angry crowd towards City Hall, a desperate but failed bid to prevent the riots that would soon engulf the city. High above occupied Europe, the belly of a B-17G Flying Fortress opens to unleash its payload. This 1944 snapshot captures the terrifying scale of the strategic bombing campaign that pulverized the continent during World War II. The raw agony of civil war is etched onto the face of a Bosnian mother in Sarajevo. 1992, crouched over the grave of her second child to die in the conflict, she embodies the unimaginable loss of the era. Wrapped in heavy winter gear, a German tanker stares down the lens on the Eastern Front. In 1941, his equipment reflects the harsh reality of Barbarossa, where the bitter Russian winter proved as deadly as the enemy. In a scene reminiscent of ancient warfare, a U.S. Navy lieutenant aims a flaming arrow at a hut. In 1971, this unconventional tactic was used to expose Viet Cong bunkers concealed along the riverbanks of Vietnam. A Norwegian teacher gathers his students for a portrait, sometime between 1912 and 1920. The rustic classroom and serious expressions offer a glimpse into the disciplined, simple nature of rural education in early 20th century Scandinavia. Even amidst the Battle of Britain, life's routines continued. An RAF pilot seizes a quiet moment between sorties for a haircut on an Essex airfield in 1942, illustrating the strange mix of domesticity and danger during the war. Surrounded by the pageantry of the Cold War, a Soviet soldier snaps photos of the 1966 May Day parade in Moscow. It is a rare humanizing moment of a serviceman acting as a tourist within his own regime. Chaos erupts in Cyprus during Operation Attila in 1974 here. A Turkish soldier pulls a Turkish Cypriot to safety, capturing the desperate, frantic movements of a conflict that would leave the island divided for decades. The brutal intensity of urban combat is laid bare during the Battle of Hue. In 1968, a wounded U.S. Marine receives urgent medical attention amidst the rubble, highlighting the high cost of the Tet Offensive. A dark moment in peacekeeping history is captured in Somalia 1993. A Canadian soldier poses near a local teenager, Shidane Arone, during a torturous interrogation, an event that would later spark a massive national scandal and inquiry. The Pacific Air War relied on more than just pilots on Guam. In 1944, a Marine mechanic meticulously services a Pratt & Whitney engine, ensuring the massive bombers remained airworthy for the long hauls over the ocean. Personal expression meets military regulation at the Khe Sanh Combat Base in 1968. A U.S. Marine displays a message scrawled on his flak jacket, offering a grim, cynical window into the mindset of grunts during the Vietnam War. Aviation history takes flight as a Loening amphibian soars over the USS. On Lexington, taken in the late 1920s, this image captures the experimental early days of carrier operations when naval air power was still finding its wings. A Valentine tank rolls out of a British factory in 1943, freshly painted and bound for the Eastern Front. This machine was part of the massive Lend-Lease effort to keep the Soviet Union fighting against the German advance. A Viet Cong guerrilla stands watch in the Mekong Delta. In 1973, the silhouette against the water captures the elusive nature of an enemy that utilized the difficult terrain to stalemate a superpower. American soldiers inspect the wreckage of a massive Japanese H-8K flying boat. In 1943, the size of the destroyed aircraft offers a testament to the engineering prowess of the enemy they faced in the Pacific Theater. A German half-track passes a burning M10 tank destroyer during the Battle of the Bulge. This 1944 image captures the initial success of Hitler's desperate last gamble in the West before the Allied lines held firm. Raw emotion spills over in a Chicago divorce court. In 1948, a husband begs for his wife's forgiveness on the floor, a dramatic public display of private heartbreak in an era when divorce was socially stigmatized. This is the old public library of Cincinnati, a stunning labyrinth of cast iron and books that was tragically demolished in 1955. Today, only a parking lot remains where this architectural masterpiece once stood. The complex face of the enemy appears in Normandy, 1944. These prisoners are not German, but members of the Georgian Legion, highlighting how the Abwehrste Wehrmacht conscripted men from across the Soviet territories to man the Atlantic Wall. A rare perspective from the other side of the cockpit shows the view from a German bomber in the early 1940s. It offers a haunting bird's-eye glimpse of the war as seen by the Luftwaffe over Europe. In a poignant tradition from Setomaia, Estonia, a woman mourns at her husband's grave. Around 1912, wrapped in traditional textiles, she represents a cultural practice of grief that connects the living deeply with the dead. Before modern safety regulations, 4th of July celebrations could be perilous in 1940s, Salem, Massachusetts, a massive pyramid of barrels awaits the torch on Gallows Hill, ready to ignite a truly towering inferno. Step back into 1905, where the American dream was on sale for pocket change. This real estate advertisement entices buyers with the promise of land for just $10 down, capturing the booming speculation that built the modern suburbs. Before he was the master of horror, Stephen King was just a bespectacled schoolboy in the late 1950s looking at this innocent face. It is hard to imagine the terrifying worlds of it and the shining that were already brewing behind those eyes. War takes a physical toll, but the human spirit endures. In 1915, a soldier who lost both legs in the trenches of World War I adapts to his new reality, balancing on the edge of a billiard table to take his shot. Relief washes over these faces as a trainload of British soldiers arrives in London in June 1940, fresh from the miracle evacuation at Dunkirk. Their exhaustion tells the story of a narrow escape from total annihilation. A symbol of imperial power lies crushed on the cobblestones of Palace Square in 1918. This trampled star, once a proud emblem of the Tsar, marks the violent end of the Russian monarchy and the dawn of the Soviet era. Amidst the dust of Normandy in August 1944, a simple act of kindness bridges the gap between liberator and civilian. A war-weary French woman pours tea for a British soldier, celebrating the end of occupation with a taste of normalcy. In a powerful image from 1992, innocence confronts hatred. In Gainesville, Georgia, a toddler too young to understand the bigotry of the KKK rally around him reaches out to touch the riot shield of a black state trooper protecting the demonstrators. Even tyrants grieve. In 1907, a young Joseph Stalin stands broken beside the body of his first wife, Cato. Her death reportedly robbed him of his last shred of human empathy, paving the way for the monster he would become. The simple pleasure of a warm drink marks the end of terror for this young girl in 1944, safely behind Allied lines. Her calm demeanor contrasts sharply with the chaos that has just been swept away by the advancing troops. Long before the beard and the top hat defined his silhouette, Abraham Lincoln was a clean-shaven prairie lawyer. This 1857 portrait captures the raw, rugged features of the man who would soon shoulder the weight of a fracturing nation. Industry meets ideology in 1938 as Adolf Hitler inspects a model tractor presented by Ferdinand Porsche. It was part of the regime's blood and soil. Propaganda promising technological modernization to the German peasantry. History hides in plain sight in this 1899 school photo. In the top row, dead center, stands a 10-year-old Adolf Hitler, his intense gaze offering a chilling glimpse of the dictator lurking within the ordinary schoolboy. Months before the devastating attack on Pearl Harbor, the runway at Ewa Marine Corps Air Station was already painted for war. These deck lines, mimicking an aircraft carrier, reveal how pilots were secretly training for Pacific naval operations in mid-1941. The Queen of Crime, Agatha Christie, is captured here in a rare domestic moment. During the 1950s, surrounded by the comfort of her home, she plotted the intricate murders that would baffle millions of readers worldwide. Post-war, Britain wasn't all gray skies and rationing. In 1949, Newcastle, an alternative model, strikes a pose that hints at the burgeoning youth culture and avant-garde fashion scenes that would explode in the coming decades. The desperation of the Third Reich is etched on the faces of these two young boys in 1944, captured by American MPS after shooting at troops. They represent the tragic reality of a regime that threw its children into the fire. Humiliation serves as propaganda in this still. From the Japanese film Dawn of Freedom, American POWs were forced to act as extras, reenacting their own defeat at Corregidor to boost the morale of their captors. Tension permeates the jungle on Bougainville in 1944. American infantrymen cautiously secure their perimeter after a night of infiltration. Their posture revealing the constant unseen threat of Japanese forces hiding in the dense foliage. A brief moment of cross-cultural connection unfolds in Vietnam. 1965, American soldiers share a bivouac with local children, a fleeting scene of humanity in a war that would become increasingly defined by its brutality toward civilians. Before the world fully ignited, international powers watched from the sidelines in 1937. Shanghai military observers from America, Germany, and Europe are briefed by a Japanese officer studying the tactics of a war they would soon join. The air is thick with anxiety at Langley Field in 1942. AB-17 bomber crew receives their final briefing, their focused expressions betraying the knowledge that many who flew these daylight missions over Europe would never return. A mundane village water pump becomes a deadly trap in Normandy. 1944, the body of an American soldier lies nearby, a victim of German engineers who turned everyday objects into lethal surprises during their retreat. Total War spared no creature in 1915. A circus elephant is pressed into service by German soldiers hauling heavy logs near the Western Front, a surreal juxtaposition of the natural world and industrialized slaughter. The night sky over Baghdad turns eerie green and bright yellow on January 17, 1991. Anti-aircraft fire traces arcs over the city, broadcasting the start of Operation Desert Storm and ushering in the era of televised warfare. A Polish insurgent named Antoni Tulecha rides a captured motorcycle through Warsaw in 1944. His confident stance amidst the Iaławież uprising symbolizes the fierce, doom-laden courage of a city trying to liberate itself from Nazi occupation. Grief turns to solidarity in Oakland, 1968. Asian American students salute the casket of Bobby Hutton, a young Black Panther killed by police, illustrating the cross-cultural alliances that defined the radical movements of the late 60s. When civil order collapsed in Los Angeles in 1992, shopkeepers took matters into their own hands. These Korean business owners, armed and perched on rooftops, became the enduring image of a community abandoned by the police during the riots. The siege is broken. In November 1941, British troops in Tobruk smashed through the perimeter wire to link up with the 8 Army ending months of isolation in the harsh North African desert. Even in orbit, boys will be boys inside Skylab 4. In 1974, Commander Gerald Carr playfully suspends his colleague with a single finger, showcasing the weightless antics of life aboard America's first space station. The cost of captivity is written on the skeletal frames of Australian POWs in Singapore. 1945, their emaciated bodies testify to the brutal conditions of the Japanese prison camps from which they were finally liberated. High above France in 1944, AB-24 Liberator opens its bay doors. This perspective captures the terrifying, impersonal nature of strategic bombing, where tons of high explosives were dropped on coordinates far below. Urban parenting took a bizarre turn in 1937, with the baby cage suspended high above city streets. These wire contraptions were designed to give apartment-dwelling infants fresh air, a terrifying sight to modern eyes. In a scene of surreal horror, the Barmele fountain stands amidst the burning ruins of Stalingrad. In 1943, the statues of children dancing around a crocodile offer a grotesque contrast to the apocalyptic destruction surrounding them. Claustrophobia grips the viewer looking at this coal mine elevator from 1900 crammed shoulder to shoulder. These soot-covered Belgian miners ascend after a shift, their faces reflecting the grueling reality of the Industrial Revolution. Privilege has a uniform in the 1930s. Students at Eton College don their traditional top hats and tails, a visual reminder of the rigid class structures that defined British society between the wars. The naval arms race kicks into high gear in 1909. With the Brazilian battleship Minas Gerais, her construction sparked a dreadnought race in South America, proving that the obsession with massive firepower was a global phenomenon. Deep in the North African desert, the SAS strikes from nowhere, heavily armed jeeps mounted with rapid fire. Aircraft guns allowed these British special forces to wreak havoc behind German lines, pioneering modern commando warfare. Defeat is a bitter pill. A British soldier stands captive in Singapore flanked by Japanese troops. His surrender marked the largest capitulation in British military history and the collapse of their empire in the East. In the humid jungles of Burma 1942, British and Chinese soldiers stand side by side. This alliance was critical in holding the line against the Japanese advance, protecting the vital supply routes into China. Ancient history meets modern conflict in Athens 1944. British paratroopers dig in beside the Parthenon, using the cradle of Western civilization as cover during the vicious street fighting of the Greek Civil War. The British spirit remains watertight. In 1931, a soldier wades through floodwaters in South London to deliver a cup of tea to his comrades, proving that even a natural disaster cannot interrupt the tea break. In a rapidly modernizing world, tradition holds fast. Two brothers in Karelia recite the Kalevala in 1894, preserving the ancient oral poetry of Finland that had been passed down through generations of rural storytellers. Tears stream down the face of Chief Petty Officer Graham Jackson as he plays Goin' Home on his accordion in 1945. This iconic image captures the raw personal grief of a nation-mourning President Franklin D. Roosevelt. San Francisco in 1964 stands on the precipice of cultural change. Looking down California Street, the city seems suspended in a classic era of cable cars and fog, just years before the summer of love would transform it forever. Humanity touches the sky in Spain. 1930, the Castellers build a towering human pyramid, a breathtaking display of balanced strength and community trust that remains a proud Catalan tradition to this day. Behind the Iron Curtain in 1979, Lithuania style was a form of rebellion. These men, likely part of a counterculture movement, sport long hair and bold fashion, quietly defying the gray uniformity of Soviet life. Culture defies. Barbarism in Sarajevo, 1992. Amidst the rubble of the National Library, cellist Vedran Smailovic plays Strauss, a haunting musical protest against the snipers and shells destroying his city. The scale of the atomic age is revealed in the K-25 control room, 1946. This massive facility in Oak Ridge was the heart of the Manhattan Project's uranium enrichment, where operators unknowingly helped build the bomb that ended the war. A Gaze from Another World stares back from 1927. This ceremonial mask from Nunavak Island, photographed by Edward Curtis, preserves the spiritual heritage of the Yupik people before outside influence forever altered their way of life. In 1918, the power of celebrity was harnessed for the war effort as Charlie Chaplin climbed onto Douglas Fairbanks' shoulders. This rally on Wall Street wasn't for laughs, but to urgently drum up support for World War I war bonds. Deep within North Korea in 1960, a meeting of revolutionary minds took place as Che Guevara delivered a speech to the local populace. It captures a rare moment of ideological exchange during the height of Cold War tensions. Science turns its gaze upon the innocent in this 1947 image from Yale University. Through a one-way dome, researchers conduct a child psychology study, marking a pivotal shift in how we understand human development and behavior. History is often filled with tragic irony, as seen in Santiago, October 1970. Chilean President Salvador Allende is escorted by the very man who would later overthrow him in a violent coup, General Augusto Pinochet. A chilling silence hangs. Then over this 1937 scene from the Nanking Massacre, a Chinese prisoner of war stands moments away from execution by a Japanese officer, a brutal testament to the horrors unleashed during the invasion. Amidst the rubble of Shanghai in 1937, the elite soldiers of China's 88th Division mount a desperate defense firing from a machine gun nest. These German-trained troops fought fiercely against the overwhelming Japanese advance. With a Tommy gun in hand and a cigar clamped in his mouth, Winston Churchill tours coastal defenses near Hartlepool in 1940. This carefully curated image projected defiance and resolve when Britain feared an imminent invasion. Sportsmanship bridges the gap of rivalry in 1916 as Cincinnati Reds manager Christy Mathewson shakes hands with his mentor John McGraw. It is a fleeting moment of camaraderie in America's pastime before the country plunged into the Great War. In the chaotic spring of 1918, a group of Circassian travelers moves through Ukraine, captured against a backdrop of Eastern European turmoil. This image preserves the dress and customs of a culture navigating a world in flux. The raw energy of the Los Angeles punk scene explodes in this 1979 portrait of the Circle Jerks founded by Keith Morris and Greg Hetson. The band became an emblem of the aggressive, fast-paced hardcore movement. Life behind the front lines of the Civil War is revealed in this 1864 photograph of the 6th NY Artillery Union soldiers stand before log cabins and a company kitchen showing the domestic reality of winter encampments. Camaraderie takes a surreal turn with Corporal Wojtek, a Syrian brown bear officially enlisted in the Polish army during the Battle of Monte Cassino in 1944. This beloved mascot helped his fellow soldiers by carrying heavy crates of ammunition. Lumbering across the scarred landscape, a tank negotiates a deep trench during the First World War. This image from 1917 highlights the introduction of mechanized beasts that forever changed the face of modern warfare. Exhaustion and relief are etched on the faces of a Sherman tank crew in Italy, 1944, after returning from behind enemy lines. Sharing a simple smoke becomes a necessary ritual to decompress from the adrenaline of combat. Decades after the war, the trauma remains visceral as Danuta Danielson, a concentration camp survivor, strikes a neo-Nazi demonstrator. With her handbag, this 1985 photo from Sweden captures a spontaneous act of defiance against hatred. Edward Steichen captures the haunting mood of New York City in 1904. With this masterpiece of the Flatiron Building, the misty twilight atmosphere transforms a feat of engineering into a work of artistic beauty. Rising skeletal and bare against the Parisian sky, the Eiffel Tower is seen here under construction. In 1888, critics initially hated it, yet this industrial marvel would soon become the defining symbol of France. A single photograph shattered the concept of imperial divinity in September 1945. Standing beside the towering General MacArthur, Emperor Hirohito appears small and human, signaling the end of old Japan and the beginning of the occupation. Opulence masks. The approaching storm in this 1899 portrait of Emperor Nicholas II and his family surrounded by the trappings of power. They remain unaware of the tragic fate that the Russian Revolution will soon bring. Draped in intricate silks, the Empress Dowager Cixi gazes out from the twilight of the Qing dynasty. For decades, she wielded absolute power from behind the curtain, steering China through its turbulent modernization efforts. Isolation creates a powerful image of bravery in 1958 as Ernest Green stands alone on his graduation day as the first African American to graduate from Little Rock Central High. His solitude speaks volumes about the struggle for integration. Before the ice claimed their dreams, explorers Shackleton, Scott, and Wilson prepared for their march south in 1902. This photo captures the determination of the Discovery expedition as they faced the unknown terrors of the Antarctic. Far from home, Ethiopian soldiers of the Kagnu Battalion serve on the Korean Peninsula in 1953 as part of the 7th Infantry Division. These men represent the global scope of the conflict and the United Nations involvement. The toll of the Pacific Air War is visible on this VF-17 pilot resting beneath a squadron scoreboard in 1944 with kills tallied above him. His posture on Bougainville Island speaks of the relentless physical demand of aerial combat. Just hours before sparking a revolution, a young Fidel Castro gathers with comrades in July 1953. This moment in Los Palos precedes the attack on the Moncada barracks, an event that would ultimately change the course of Cuban history. Solemn faces mark the first graduating class of the U.S. Navy's Waves Transport Airman School in 1944. These women stepped into critical roles at Patuxent River, reshaping the military landscape during a time of global emergency. Survival is the only thing that matters in this dramatic rescue on Luzon Island in 1945. APBY Catalina seaplane crew from the USS Tangier pulls 5 downed airmen from the water, saving them from capture or death. Chaos erupts in the skies over Vietnam in 1967 as a C-7A Caribou flies tragically into the line of friendly artillery fire. The image freezes a catastrophic accident near Duc Pho, highlighting the terrifying confusion of modern combat. A funeral procession moves through the streets in 1895 for Korea's last queen, assassinated in a IOEL. In Japanese plot codenamed Fox Hunt, the somber event marked a tragic turning point in the decline of Korean sovereignty. Diplomacy wears a winter coat in 1974 as President Gerald Ford chats with Leonid Brezhnev in Vladivostok. Donning traditional fur hats, the leaders of the superpowers share a lighter moment amidst the heavy negotiations of the SALT talks. The global scale of the First World War is illustrated by this group of prisoners captured by German forces around 1916. Men from nations as diverse as Senegal, Russia, and Canada stand side by side in captivity. Humiliation serves as a weapon in Ukraine, July 1941, where German soldiers force a Jewish man to have his beard cut. It is a harrowing glimpse into the dehumanization tactics that preceded the industrialized murder of the Yaos Holocaust. Old meets new in the Suez Canal as the mighty battleship HMS Howe glides past a traditional Egyptian felucca. In 1944, the contrast highlights the intersection of ancient waterways and the massive machinery of World War II. Anxiety fills the air in the Great Hall of Ellis Island around 1910. Immigrants who have passed the initial medical checks wait in pens their futures in America, hanging on the decision of the inspectors ahead. The Code of the Samurai meets the reality of defeat as Imperial Japanese officers surrender their swords to the British. In 1945, this ritual disarming symbolized the total dismantling of Japan's militaristic ambitions. Passengers on a scheduled flight in 1925 experience a new kind of wonder as the lost world is screened on board it. Was a pioneering moment that combined the thrill of early aviation with the magic of cinema. Human dignity is stripped away in 1905 at Coney Island, where indigenous people from the Philippines were put on display performing rituals for gawking crowds. They were victims of a time when racism was sold as entertainment. Nature unleashes its fury in Costa Rica as the Irazu volcano erupts in 1964. The town of Cartago is overshadowed by a colossal column of ash and smoke, reminding us of the fragility of human settlements. Camelot descends to the beach in 1962 as JFK shares a grin with a bystander in Santa Monica. The casual energy and lack of heavy security capture a time before tragedy would forever alter the presidency. Japanese troops celebrate their rapid advance in this propaganda photo from the invasion of the Dutch East Indies in 1942. The image was designed to project invincibility as the empire expanded across the Pacific. A moment of oddity during the border conflicts of 1939 sees a Japanese soldier posing with a captured goat at Nomonhan. It is a bizarre, quiet interlude before the Soviet Union delivered a crushing defeat to the Imperial Army. The Jungle War ends in surrender for these Japanese soldiers on Luzon in 1945, emerging from the bush to face the U.S. 32nd Division. Their ragged appearance betrays the desperate conditions of the final island campaigns. Literature meets authoritarianism in 1931 as Joseph Stalin stands with writer Maxim Gorky. The image underscores the Soviet state's intent to bring the arts under strict political control, during the Stalinist era. A horrifying failure of international protection occurred in July 1995 near Srebrenica. Serbian forces separated and killed over 8,000 Bosnian Muslims, a genocide that took place while the world and the UN watched in paralysis. Far from the Reich, he once ruled Kaiser Wilhelm II celebrates his 80th birthday in exile. In 1939, the former emperor appears as a relic of the past, completely overshadowed by the rise of Hitler's New Germany. Greed and endurance are etched into the snowy slopes of the Chilkoot Trail. In 1899, a seamless line of prospectors climbs upward, carrying their lives on their backs in a desperate bid to reach the Klondike gold fields. A tender moment softens the image of the White House in 1967 as Lady Bird Johnson pushes her grandchild in a stroller. It offers a glimpse of domestic normalcy amidst the political storms of the Johnson administration. The Brotherhood of Immigrants is immortalized in this Civil War era, photo of the Irish Brigade's leadership fighting for their new home. These men faced some of the bloodiest battles of the conflict, including Gettysburg. Under the watchful eye of the Nazi regime, members of the League of German Girls perform a synchronized dance at the Reich Party Congress. This carefully choreographed display in the 1930s was designed to project an image of vitality, unity, and unwavering loyalty to the state. A rare moment of softness captures Soviet leader Vladimir Lenin stroking a cat in 1922, taken at his dacha in Gorky. Just 2 years before his death, the image contrasts the ruthless revolutionary architect with a quiet domestic scene of declining health. Nature challenges engineering in this spectacular 1902 photograph by Gabriel Lopé. A jagged bolt of lightning strikes the summit of the Eiffel Tower, illuminating the Parisian night and highlighting the Iron Giant's role as a literal lightning rod for the city. The world changed forever on the steppes of Kazakhstan. In August 1949, this ominous mushroom cloud marks the detonation of RDS-1, the Soviet Union's first nuclear weapon, signaling the end of America's atomic monopoly and the start of the Cold War arms race. Honor meets defeat on a dusty airfield in Saipan, August 1945. These Japanese pilots were tasked with the somber duty of flying surrender envoys to Allied forces, bridging the gap between Myanmar, devastating war, and the uneasy peace that followed. Intensity radiates from Leroy Selman as he prepares to take the field in Tampa. During the late 1970s, the first ever draft pick for the Buccaneers. His focused gaze embodies the grit and determination required to build a franchise from the ground up. New York Governor Nelson Rockefeller and architect Minoru Yamasaki loom over a model of the World Trade Center in 1964. Their ambitious vision for the Twin Towers promised to reshape the skyline, unaware that history would one day mark the site with tragedy. Victorian fascination with the unusual is preserved in this 1902 photo of a young contortionist posing with impossible flexibility. She represents the era's thriving vaudeville circuit, where physical anomalies were often the ticket to a livelihood and minor celebrity. Wembley Stadium roars to life in July 1948, marking the return of the Olympic Games after a 12-year hiatus caused by war amidst the ruins of a recovering London. This ceremony symbolized a desperate global desire for peace and normalcy. The banality of evil takes a family vacation in this 1981 snapshot of drug lord Pablo Escobar at Disney World before his empire of violence fully consumed Colombia. He appears as just another tourist hiding a monster behind a mundane smile. Deep in the forests of post-war Poland, anti-communist partisans gather for a clandestine mass in 1949. Even after the World War ended, these cursed soldiers continued a desperate, doomed struggle against Soviet occupation, sustained by faith and camaraderie. Chatay Mountain Tees. Chase, photographer, scans the horizon for inspiration at the Imperial Fairgrounds in 1976. In a moment of meta-commentary, the camera captures the observer, highlighting the quiet lulls and patient searching that define the art of documentary photography. Defying physics with sheer optimism, Attila Hulagu attempts to walk on water using oversized float shoes in 1961. Dubbed the Turk who did what Da Vinci dreamed, his eccentric experiment captures the mid-century spirit of backyard invention and human curiosity. Drifting across the vast Pacific, the crew of the Kon-Tiki reaches the end of their legendary voyage. In 1947, Thor Heyerdahl's balsa wood raft proved that ancient civilizations could have made the journey, blending anthropology with high-stakes adventure. The censors finally lifted the veil, and with this stark image of 3 American GIS dead on the beach at Buna in 1942, published to shake the public from complacency, it brought the brutal, unvarnished cost of the Pacific war home to American living rooms. Rusting relics of a fractured state, 3 Somali M47 tanks sit abandoned near Mogadishu in 1991, discovered by U.S. troops during Operation Restore Hope. These machines of war serve as silent monuments to the chaos that engulfed the Horn of Africa. A steel behemoth prowls the Eastern Front as a Tiger I tank engages in the Battle of Kursk, 1943. This clash of armor remains the largest tank battle in history, where the technical superiority of German engineering met the overwhelming force of the Soviet Union. Counterculture finds its voice in San Francisco, January 1967, as Timothy Leary leads a crowd of 15,000 in song. The Human Be In was the prelude to the Summer of Love, a moment where psychedelics and spirituality merged into a movement. Psychological warfare takes flight in Taiwan, January 1969, as soldiers prepare balloons filled with propaganda leaflets drifting across the strait to mainland China. These silent messengers fought an ideological battle for hearts and minds during the quiet heats of the Cold War. Rows of deadly steel gleam under the factory lights of the Washington Navy Yard around 1917. This cavernous torpedo shop showcases the immense industrial mobilization required to arm the United States Navy as it entered the First World War. A rare coalition of rivals stands shoulder to shoulder in China, 1,900 troops from 8 different nations, including Britain, Russia, and Japan, paused their imperial competitions to suppress the Boxer Rebellion, illustrating the complex web of colonial alliances. Before the fall, Tsar Nicholas II poses in 1899, the very image of absolute monarchy. His uniform and demeanor project a stability that was already cracking, oblivious to the revolutionary forces that would soon sweep his dynasty into the dustbin of history. Stripped of their crowns, the former Tsar Nicholas II and his son Alexei saw wood in Tobolsk, 1917. This mundane act of labor during their imprisonment highlights the drastic fall from autocracy to captivity just months before their execution. Years before he became the last Tsar, a young Nicholas visits Nagasaki in 1891. During his eastern journey, it was a diplomatic tour that nearly ended in tragedy when an assassination attempt left him with a permanent scar and a lifelong distrust of Japan. An uneasy silence falls over Istanbul in 1980 as Turkish soldiers stand guard during the coup d'état. The military intervention suspended democracy and reshaped the nation's political landscape, leaving a legacy of order enforced by the barrel of a gun. Allies learn from one another as 2 American soldiers demonstrate bayonet techniques to Chinese troops during World War II. It is a gritty scene of cross-cultural cooperation united by a common enemy and the visceral reality of close quarters combat. Defiance has a stylish face in this 1920 photograph of 2 women arrested during the early days of Prohibition. Their amused expressions suggest that for some, the new laws against alcohol were not a moral deterrent, but merely a challenge to be outwitted. The battle for workers' rights is pasted onto a wall in Detroit during the late 1930s. 2 men erect a billboard promoting union shops, a visual skirmish in the fierce labor struggles that defined the industrial Midwest during the Great Depression. Decadence reigns in 1920s Berlin, where nightclub patrons flirt via pneumatic tubes and table phones. This scene captures the frenetic, hedonistic energy of the Weimar Republic, a glittery bubble of liberation existing precariously on the edge of political collapse. A lifetime of service is etched into the face of Admiral David Farragut. Having started his naval career at 9 years old in 1810, the man who famously cried, "Damn the torpedoes," bridges the gap between the age of sail and the ironclad era. Far from the Western Front, U.S. troops marched through Vladivostok in 1918. This often forgotten intervention in the Russian Civil War saw Americans on Russian soil caught in the chaotic vacuum following the collapse of the Tsarist Empire. Dust kicks up at Fort Knox in June 1942 as a U.S. infantryman kneels before a half-track with the country fully mobilized for war scenes, like this played out across America, turning civilians into the soldiers who would liberate Europe. The ferocity of the Tet Offensive is captured as U.S. Marines return fire during the Battle of Hue 1968, fighting block by block in an ancient imperial city. This image embodies the brutal, confusing urban warfare that defined the Vietnam conflict. Humanity transcends uniform in France. 1944. As a U.S. medic bandages a wounded German SS soldier amidst the hatred of war, the Hippocratic Oath prevails, offering a fleeting moment of mercy between mortal enemies. Smoke billows from the dockyards of Saigon in January 1945 as U.S. carrier planes strike Japanese supply lines. This aerial view captures the relentless tightening of the Allied noose around the Japanese Empire in the final year of the war. Stock car racing remains a hands-on sport in 1968 as Richard Petty climbs out of his car during the Daytona 500, helping his crew fix a separated roof. The King shows the blue-collar grit that built NASCAR into a national phenomenon. The sea was always a muse for Ernest Hemingway, seen here aboard his yacht around 1950. The rugged author nearing the end of his life looks every bit the old man of his famous novella, staring down the horizon one last time. War makes for strange conveniences in New Guinea 1943. During a lull in the fighting, a corporal uses a captured Japanese flag as a barber's smock, turning a symbol of the enemy into a practical tool for a jungle haircut. Gallows humor is scrawled in chalk on a WWII bomb circa 1945. The inscription, "Have you heard this? It'll kill you," reveals the coping mechanisms of ground crews who package death with a punchline before sending it into the sky. A chilling indifference marks the face of Brenda Ann Spencer after the Cleveland Elementary School shooting in 1979. Her haunting explanation, "I don't like Mondays," introduced a terrifying new era of senseless school violence to the public consciousness. Street food has a long history seen here, with Joe Chips selling his wares from a wagon in Anglesey. Around 1910, it is a charming slice of Edwardian life, where local vendors were the heartbeat of the community daily routine. In the shadow of the war effort, children play in the backyard of a government housing project in Sausalito, 1943, while their parents built ships to fight fascism. These kids created their own world, illustrating the resilience of life on the home front. Inter-service rivalry takes a creative turn in 1952 aboard the USS Wasp after a Navy Banshee landed on the wrong carrier. The crew graffitied the plane, with Must-Be Air Force turning a navigational error into a floating joke. Dignity takes a back seat to survival for this American gunner, forced back to his position naked after a water rescue. It is a raw human moment that strips away the soldier's uniform to reveal the vulnerable man underneath. Pride stands tall in the UK 1939 as a mechanic poses in his base camp captured, just as the storm of World War II was breaking. This personal snapshot immortalizes the unsung ground crews who kept the Royal Air Force flying. Long before the global conflict, a mechanic stands with his equipment in 1931. Essex, this family photo, connects the personal lineage of a man who would serve his country to the broader history of British mechanized warfare between the wars. Echoes of the Iron Horse ring through Yankee Stadium on July 4, 1939. Lou Gehrig, facing a fatal diagnosis of ALS, delivers his luckiest man speech, displaying a grace and gratitude that transcended baseball and touched